Look at me, I'm a country boy. I'm a ragtag nomad. My piss smells like the exhaust of a two-stroke engine, and my diet consists of whiskey and beans. And I love riding my motorcycle even more than I love riding my man.
Country roads take me home to the place I belong. South California, desert daddy, take me home. Country roads.
I gotta be real with you, Choom. The Brennan Apollo is one of my favorite motorcycles out there. A rare gem of a machine that is bounding with both utility and style, endlessly customizable and adaptable to any terrain, and especially favored by nomads for those very reasons. Powered by a flat twin 1400cc engine and a 6-speed sequential manual transmission that cranks 94 horsepower to the wheel, the Apollo has smooth power delivery, low end torque, a tall riding position, and a low center of gravity, which makes it remarkably easy to drive despite weighing over 500 pounds dry. This model, provided by friend of the channel and Avocado Clan member Lee Richard, is a rarity in the Badlands because it is completely stock aside from knobbier tires that are better suited for the desert, and a clutch lever which he had to replace with a generic spare after dropping it at a gas station. See, most people who buy dual sports and adventure bikes who do a lot of out-of-city driving do something to their bikes, because bikes like this out of the factory are just kind of okay on dirt roads, because from the manufacturer's point of view, they want a potential buyer to have a comfortable riding experience when riding in circles around the dealership lot. The tall riding position, the big tires, and the low torque make this a comfortable enough riding experience when doing easy cruising, but due to the physics involved, you really can't have a motorcycle that excels on both pavement and dirt roads at the same time, so normally, owners will modify their bikes to be better in one direction or another. For example, Brennan also makes a street version of the Apollo called the 650S, with smooth street tires, a slightly different gearing ratio, and is slightly shorter and lighter, making it less rugged but more friendly for city riding. On the other end of modifications is this Militech Brennan collaboration with even knobbier tires, a bored-out engine that produces even more low-end torque, and various internal modifications to make the bike more rugged and maneuverable off-road. As for why Lee hasn't done anything to it himself, he says it's because he's ridden widely modified motorcycles most of his life, and riding one that is unadorned is a novel experience, but that eventually, once he has some spare eddies, he'll probably at least change the paint job to something less shiny. Funnily enough, the thing that got the owner of this bike into, well, biking, beyond just being immersed in nomad culture where motorcycle riding is more common, is a little book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, written by Robert Pirsig in 1974 and still holds up remarkably well today despite being over a century old. And it is also, by chance, one of my favorite books of all time. The book is partly a road trip diary, partly about a man dealing with mental illness, partly an attempted synthesis of Eastern and Western philosophy, and a little bit about motorcycles themselves. Philosophy majors tend not to like the book because it doesn't say anything really new or novel about Buddhism, and the motorcycle parts are, well, pardon the pun, used more as a vehicle for him to talk about his ideas, which he even acknowledges in the introduction. It should in no way be associated with the great body of factual information relating to orthodox Zen Buddhist practice. It's not very factual on motorcycles either. Still, the reason why both me and Lee love this book is because it excels at being a philosophy book about philosophy, making you question why you value what you value and what makes something good. And I don't know, as someone who also grew up in a nomad clan who did a lot of traveling along the Gulf Coast via dual sport, I personally resonated with how he asked his questions and how he wrote his narrative. While on the road, with hours of tarmac or dirt between your next stop, the mind tends to wander. It tends to get a bit bored, so while I don't necessarily agree with his conclusions, I find it a comfort. And plus, he so clearly understands the appeal of riding a motorcycle over a car in the first place, as illustrated by this quote. In a car, you're always in a compartment. And because you're used to it, you don't realize that through the car window, everything you see is just more TV. You're a passive observer, and it is all moving by you boringly in a frame. On a cycle, the frame is gone. You're completely in contact with it all. You're in the scene, not just watching it anymore, and the sense of presence is overwhelming. And this, to me, is why riding motorcycles is so much more spiritually compelling than a car, despite the inherent comfort and danger of being exposed to the elements. In our modern world, with our brain dances and ad-infested social media and our closed-off little informational silos and all the distractions that make us feel numb and depersonalized, when you are on a motorcycle, you have to pay attention. And sure, on a motorcycle you can be too cold or hot or whatever, but Pirsig has something to say about that too. I argue that physical discomfort is important only when the mood is wrong. Then you fasten on to whatever thing is uncomfortable and call that the cause. But if the mood is right, then physical comfort doesn't mean much. At highway speeds, you are compelled to be in the moment at all times or else face serious injury or death. And it's so interesting to me that, at least on long drives, my mind kind of stratifies into two distinct levels of perception. The first layer is the awareness of myself, my motorcycle, and the road. Using all of my senses, I'm aware of the cadence of the engine, the texture of the tarmac, potential hazards and obstacles up ahead, my posture, the tension in my hands, and so many other things around me. The other layer is almost like a state of daydreaming where my mind wanders and I think of things, like stories I'll never write or arguments I'll never have. These two mental states sound contradictory, and I guess they are, because certainly if you ask an avid motorcyclist, hey, is imagining fake arguments with internet strangers safe to do while riding, they would certainly say no? Maybe calling it daydreaming is the wrong word. It's closer to a flow state of being because the mental mode of being aware never goes away, but I also do direct music videos in my head during long drives, and it's evident Robert Pirsig was also contemplating big philosophical questions while on his road trips. Regardless of the exact terminology, it is wild to be a creature with a big fatty brain connected to a bony spine thinking about the world around me while sitting on a hunk of metal that creates rapid explosions a few inches beneath my dick, and I'm here to experience and be aware of all of it. The grand open road, the endless horizon, the smell of dust and sweat, all that's so beautiful, so mundane, and yet so profound. Speaking about the maintenance part of Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance, maintenance is also easier on a motorcycle than a car. If something is wrong with your car, you most likely need, at minimum, a lift and specialized tools and a garage and a place to store parts, but motorcycle maintenance, even with a heavy adventure bike like the Apollo, is something most people with internet access and a few basic tools can do. Tire replacement, oil changes, brake fluid replacement, chain or drive shaft maintenance, all of these things are something every motorcycle owner should learn how to do. Get yourself a Haynes manual and a pack of beer and you'll be all set. For such a big bike, the Apollo is one of the easiest motorcycles I've ever ridden. The low gearing and torque means it's harder to stall out and makes it easier to control the power band. Steering is smooth and braking is responsive. The weight of the bike makes it feel sturdy no matter your speed, although I admit I would not want it to fall on me. That I could say for sure. The wide pedals are great for my big feet, and there are plenty of mounting points to put aftermarket racks and containers, which is nice because frankly, Brennan charges way too much for those. It's actually kind of ridiculous. Off-road, it's not as nimble as a dirt bike or dual sport, but that's expected. The kind of people who buy these things for off-road usually aren't doing it for fun, but out of necessity, in order to go to places that cars would have a much more difficult time going, or because it is just so much more fuel efficient that is helped out by the oversized fuel tank. Personally, I'd hate to get this thing stuck in the mud without a buddy around to help pull me out, but this bike does have enough low-end power to get you through most terrain. Aesthetics-wise, it's not the prettiest bike, and I personally don't like the factory glossy red and orange either, but I think it strikes a balance between rugged and practical and sleek and stylish for those keeping it in the city. The asymmetric lights and the symmetric angled engines poking out on the sides is also a really good look. I just love that. In conclusion, I really like this bike, and if it didn't make my input worry sick, I'd probably get one for myself. It is a jack of all trades and pretty good at everything. There are certainly better street bikes, better dirt bikes, even better adventure bikes, but few riders ever gain the skills to push their motorcycles to the limit anyway. To a normal dude with average skills, this is more than enough power and mobility, especially once you go down the rabbit hole of aftermarket parts. One day I dream of taking a bike like this and going on my own little adventure, the way Robert Pirsig did a century ago. Just taking in the sights of America while thinking about my mental illness and my groundbreaking novel philosophies about life. And with that, I shall leave you with one last quote from Zen. The making of a painting or the fixing of a motorcycle isn't separate from the rest of your existence. If you're a sloppy thinker the 6 days of the week you aren't working on your machine, what trap avoidance, what gimmicks can make you all of a sudden sharp on the 7th? It all goes together. The real cycle you're working on is a cycle called yourself. The machine that appears to be out there and the person that appears to be in here are not two separate things. They grow toward quality or fall away from quality together. I'm the Rat Shepherd, and it's been a grand time. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you around for the next one.
Almost heaven, South California, red peaks, Jackson Plains. Life is old there, older than the trees, younger than the mountains, growing like a breeze. Country roads take me home to the place I belong, South Carolina. hear her voice in the morning hour. She calls me. The radio reminds me of a home far away. Driving down